So my name is Julie Zaruba Fountain. I'm the Wellness Coordinator for students here at the college. And then I teach with the Dignitas program, which is our first year experience program. And that's a face-to-face course. And then I adjunct for the University of Mary, which is a fellow Benedictine college out in the Bismarck, North Dakota, and I teach seniors. So I have the contrast of the senior class versus the first year class, which I really like that dynamic. And then working full-time in student affairs gives me kind of a widespread. So that's how I approach connectedness and sense of belonging, is through setting up curriculum, but then also planning events with students. And the mission of WellU is to really create a sense of community and sense of wellness on our campus. So that's our mission, is promoting a lifestyle of health and wellness. Now for our agenda today, we're going to talk about defining a sense of belonging, and we'll look at explaining the importance of sense of belonging related to academic success, and then applying applicable strategies to promote belonging on a college campus. So achievement and satisfaction in college is determined by factors beyond academics, particularly for students from underrepresented communities. Academic preparation and applying oneself academically are certainly critical. However, other variables such as sense of belonging, institutional supports, and removing barriers to success are equally paramount. The work of all of us on campus, faculty and staff, is to ensure that students reach their highest levels of achievement. And that has to do with developing a sense of belonging. And this sense of belonging is really parallel to their academic accomplishments. And this is the premise of higher education, really, is to help them develop that sense of belonging and to provide academic accomplishments. So who here, I've said the phrase, I don't know, maybe 14 times since we started. So before I said the phrase 14 times since you got here, who has heard of this phrase, sense of belonging? Has everybody kind of heard the phrase? And what do you think of when you think of sense of belonging? What does that mean to you?
Community, or finding your place.
Community, finding your place, yeah. Pretty similar. Yeah, so they're, like anything, in order to study it, you have to define it, right? So this is how researchers define sense of belonging. What is sense of belonging? At the most basic level, hi, come on in. We're just getting started. Welcome. It's at the most basic level, it's whether or not students feel respected, valued, accepted, cared for, included, and that they matter in the classroom, at the college, or in their chosen career path. So sense of belonging is related to college students' cognition, affect, and behaviors. In other words, students can think, feel, and act like they belong, and that leads to their sense of belonging. For example, a student who thinks, which is cognition, and feels, which is affect, that they belong in a class, they're more likely to show up, which is the behavior, to that class than students that feel like they don't belong. Sense of belonging has been found to be a basic human need and motivation. So that is, everyone needs to feel like they belong. Why belonging matters. So I'm talking about this topic today because more and more research is coming out about sense of belonging. And it matters because it's related to academic success and also emotional well-being. Although there's more research on the emphasis of sense of belonging in K through 12 educational environments, there is increasing research in higher ed environments. And we know that more and more colleges have really started to emphasize the sense of belonging in college student populations. As you may have heard this morning, first year students are oftentimes study subjects of lots of different topics, and this one included. So the success of a college student is really related to how welcome they feel in specific environments, such as the classroom or such as our offices, student affairs events and programs. It's also related to engagement and persistence, course grades, and academic motivation. So bottom line is, the students that feel like they belong are more likely to succeed. And although everyone needs to belong, college students experience belonging differently based on their identities and their experiences. So research shows that minority students, for example, tend to report a lower sense of belonging than their peers. And academic preparation and also performance can also raise or lower students' sense of belonging. And one of the theories that go to address why minority students might have a lower sense of belonging is because they feel like any sort of struggle, they internalize that as evidence that they don't belong instead of maybe putting it on the institution or others. It becomes internalized. So finally, it's important for all of us as a college to know that sense of belonging is dynamic. So it can ebb and flow just like everything else in our lives. And it can fluctuate during transition times from class to class or from club attendance to club attendance and year to year. And it's influenced by other things that we might not be aware of. So if a student maybe received a failing grade in another class, when they come to your club event or when they come to your class, they may feel a lack of sense of belonging because of that experience that they had in a different situation. So my job, a lot of what I do and how I determine how to program is based off of data that I receive from the Boynton College Health Survey. We did a survey, sent out a survey to students through Boynton College Health, so that's located at the U of M. And we received a 51% response rate from traditional age students, which we were very, very happy with that response rate. So these are some stats from there. But to tell you a little bit more about our traditional undergraduate students, 96.7 are from the United States, 85.8 are from Minnesota, and 14.2 are from other states. There's 11 states and 8 countries represented in, this was data from 2018, so this is their second year class. And then 49 states plus DC, Puerto Rico, and Guam, and 20 countries in the total population. So that's our first year class, which is now our second year class, was not as diverse as some of the other populations, but it was also a smaller class. So it'd be interesting to see those numbers for this incoming class because they're a little bit bigger than our last incoming class. As you can see on the screen, there's some data about bullying and being treated, threatened, or harassed. And what we have found, why I'm sharing this information with you, is the Centers for Disease Control state that trauma influences opportunities around education, income, and occupation. So it's important to note that every student that we have has a history, that 18 years of life before they came here, and they all have different experiences. And that doesn't go away as soon as they step into a classroom, as soon as they step into your office. They're going to be carrying that with them, and their ability to learn and their willingness to take on risky situations is different based off of their history. So there's the subjective experience that they can have that they feel out of place, more likely to feel out of place and raise doubts about your capabilities, the more trauma you've had in your past. So this is really important. There's more information about adverse childhood experiences, but this isn't a Boynton data presentation, so I didn't want to bog you down on that, although I'm happy to share any of that information with anybody if they have questions, and hopefully we'll have a specific Boynton data presentation in the future. So what we're going to do, is there anyone on Zoom?
I don't see.
Okay. Good. Then we don't need to worry about that because I won't share that part. So I'm going to just pass out instruction. Now the rules are you can't speak during this. So
Just
join.
and then we'll add.
Okay.
So we'll see. I'll let you know.
Okay. So I'll pass out this. I'll pass out this, and we'll play a game. And then once you're done, just raise your hands when you're done. Here's your deck of cards.
So we do have someone in Zoom.
In Zoom, okay. So then, did I give you a deck of cards? So for our Zoom participants, what I would like you to think about is discuss how you define belonging and how you create belonging. And then we have our groups here playing a card game. And then once you get done reading the card, hi Heidi, that's okay, come on in. You can join either table, they're just starting to play a game. So either one.
Ketchup everywhere.
Oh no.
I kept smelling ketchup. I'm like, everywhere I look, I had ketchup, and then I found this thing. I gotta clean myself up.
You would have been welcomed anyway, but I can understand.
Connectedness and belonging. I'm like,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I probably have.
I got it on my pants. I'm like, where is it coming from? And I didn't realize it was
Everyone's probably trying to be very nice and not say anything, but at the same time, you're like, I need to know.
yeah, I look like I've been shot. Like, seriously.
Okay. So the game is, this is the no talking game. So you read the rules, and then once you're done reading the rules, you can start playing.
Sorry, hand up the card.
You ready?
It says facilitator, when the facilitator says go from the top part over to be played.
Go.
All the cards into this.
Yeah, I think you're well.
No, you go next one.
All the cards?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it gives an equal number of cards. Discard the extra cards. Yeah.
So all the cards are?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
And then are you done? Okay, do we have a winner? Ooh. Okay, okay. Hey, you'll switch places. And then you'll leave the card. And then reshuffle and then play again. Take your time. And remember, this is a no talking game. So. It's like we used to have some card players now. You're dealing like a professional.
Same, remember we had one extra card that was not.
I have a horrible poker face. So no talking. So I cannot. That's a gray area right now. I'll take your card. Do we have one more? All done? Go winner? Okay. It's tied. Okay. Okay, you can go ahead and collect the cards and then switch back in your seat. So now you can talk. Thank you for playing the game. So did anybody catch on to what's happening? What was happening? Different rules. Yeah. So the winner went into this environment expecting a certain set of rules, unspoken rules, and then that wasn't the case. Some people had some creative ways to work around that and helping. But those that didn't,
Nope.
how did you know that there was that conflict?
I think we kind of just stopped, like the pace of the game sort of stopped. And it was like, wait a minute, something's off here.
Yeah.
And it was because we were playing pretty smoothly before.
Yeah. Did you kind of get upset, you as the winners? What was your reaction? Like, did you get kind of upset? Like, wait, I'm supposed to have that hand, or how did that work? What did you think at first?
Yeah, just surprised that it was a twist, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess just immediately trying to figure out how to navigate that then.
Yeah, without talking. Yeah. And
yeah.
same with.
Yeah, it was just an interesting point that we were at, that we all kind of collectively had to figure something out without communicating how we typically would. right away. And so it felt a little bit uncomfortable. What do we do? And then you figure it out, you try something new, and then you just keep rolling with that.
Yeah.
And then we never revisited it again either.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Once you established it, that was it. And you kept playing the game.
Right. Yeah.
For our group, I thought it was interesting. We were in the majority, like we had a rule that we could have outnumbered you. But at the same time, we went with the winners. What their rule was.
Interesting.
I thought that was.
Did both tables do that? Defer to your rule and then your rule? Yeah, that's an interesting observation.
I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we had the hearts one, and I think you had.
I think I ended up just choosing arbitrarily hearts.
No, you did. Yeah, you did. Because I was going to let Lori win because she played the heart, and then you wanted to win because you had played the spade, and then I was kind of in the middle, like, and then I think you caught on that. Wait a minute, I think Heidi had a different set of rules, so then you did, like, you stepped in and just were like, okay, then we'll do it. So it was interesting too to see what role people played.
Yeah.
And almost deferring to the minority, which I think in not all communities would we do that. The majority would just be like, no, you need to fit in. And I think sometimes for us, since we are so cute into those kind of different I think sometimes we defer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's try it your way, because we did it my way for a while, so let's do something new and try something your way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that plays into a lot of what we're talking about with building sense of belonging. How do we adjust when something is different? And how comfortable do you feel and confident do you feel in saying and acknowledging? Because sometimes if you don't know exactly what's going on, you might just pretend that you understand and not really know. So coming into college, what are some cultural views and social norms that you think that we have that, how do other cultures view some of the things that we do that are social norms? Like, what do you think when students are coming in, how does that relate to the college? That are just certain attitudes, beliefs, behaviors? How does
Something
that
pretty
turn in?
interesting for me, I graduated in May as a recent grad, and I'm from out of state.
Okay.
I had to adjust to the dining hall hours. That was different. Midwestern people eat dinner so early compared to what I'm used to. I'm used to eating at 7 or 8 at night, and I had to adjust that the dining hall closes at 7 and 6 or 6:30 on weekends. Like that. So that was something that I would be studying and doing my homework and be like, I'll just go eat later, and then I'd be like, oh no, I forgot.
Yeah.
Or just like, I'm
that's
not
huge.
hungry, so I had to adjust that new schedule. That seems as basic as that.
But food is huge. That's a big cultural thing. Good example, thanks. Anything else that you can think of that maybe coming into our community that we just, some things that we take for granted that happen that might.
International students that come here, and we're all using American slang. And they might have a different meaning for a word that we say, or just not be confused completely that why are you using such and such a word at this time? And getting them used to crazy American slang.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Language is huge. Acronyms are a lot of, not only our fields probably have a lot of different acronyms, but also, I know since student affairs, you could probably say a whole sentence without actually saying words because we have so many acronyms for things that we don't take the time to explain. So it's something, an example that isn't my own example, but Dory always shares like the registrar with students. If you say, go to the registrar, it's like, if you're not familiar with the college landscape, what the heck is a registrar? What do they do? I mean, it's just not a term that exists in high schools or middle schools or elementary schools. So explaining some of those terms that are just related to a college atmosphere doesn't make sense. Office hours is another one, like explaining to students what is an office hour, why does it exist, where is your office located, can definitely influence the level of comfort that they have. And those are rules that just walking in, we think people know, but they don't. So we're going to talk a little bit about how do you define belonging and how do you create belonging. So on Zoom, is the person on Zoom still there?
They are.
Oh, okay,
wonderful. I was typing because I just reached out to say, if you want to chime in, just you can.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, please please chime in as they're able. Overall research on sense of belonging, these are the concepts that greatly influence sense of belonging. And at the end of this presentation, I will have a list of resources. So I did not come up with these. These are things that are researched, and I'll provide that at the very end. Positive self-concept, family support, relationships with peers, relationships with faculty and staff, strong institutional support, systems and resources, and then also race, class, conscious institutional practices are very important. And you can see the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is on there, and that has been well studied as far as the things that basic human need and motivation. So you're going to be motivated first by food and shelter and safety, and then by belonging. So that's motivation for Maslow's hierarchy of needs for motivation. Now, what can we do about this? We know it's important, we know it matters, we know that we have these cultural norms that people are coming into. So how do you set up your office or your classroom? What does that look like? So what does it look like first when students don't feel like they belong in a classroom or office? Sometimes it's easier to point those things out than what they do belong. So what would that look like if students don't belong? If you are noticing that, how would you notice that a student doesn't belong in your office or classroom or doesn't feel like they belong?
You might look around, not know where to sit or go,
Mm-hmm.
what to do.
Yeah.
So if I think back to I'm not faculty and staff, I think back to my experience.
Yeah.
The professors that I came up with, maybe someone had like a special table that they would sit separate from their desks where students could come in and work. And so a special student workspace where they could sit and work either with other students or the professor could come over and work with them. Okay. Rather than pulling up a chair to the desk. Okay. That's interesting. So in your office, if a student didn't belong in your office as your staff, what would that look like if they didn't belong in your office? They felt like they didn't belong. And not knowing what to do with themselves. Okay, sure. Yeah. Anyone else have ideas of what that would look like in either an office space or at an event or in a classroom?
I know a few years ago, we had a few Muslim students that were afraid I work in campus ministry, so they were afraid to come in campus ministry because they felt they had to be Christian. And so I got to know one of the Muslim students, and he showed me how to write welcome in Arabic. So I had that on my computer monitor, and then I had a little laughing Buddha in there. So I just don't have Christian symbols in my office. Sure. Yeah. So that people feel more welcome and not just all. Yeah. So underlying assumptions, again, those underlying assumptions, like you're at a Catholic college, what does that mean if you're not Catholic or not Christian? Yeah. Are you welcome into all spaces? Yeah. Great example.
One of the things I kind of struggle with is just being in different workplaces, different schools where sometimes it's more comfortable to have like pets, especially dogs that can bark in a space and that. And I know I've had students, some, from different countries where that's not common and having pets there. And then trying to balance having, I think for us, me at least, it's often something that's very like, oh, this is a welcoming place, comfortable, we've got our pets here. But then when it's cross-cultural, it's not. It's like, no, I'm really afraid to be in this space because this dog is right there. Wow. Yeah. So I guess that's something to think about.
Yeah. Generational too. I know my grandmother did not appreciate my parents having pets in the house. Yep. She would always poke it with her cane because in her generation, like that was, animals are dirty and not welcome. So I can probably multiple viewpoints on that too.
This is pretty stereotypical, like with people think I work in the library. Yeah. And so like sometimes they come in and they're laughing and having fun, and then they're like, oh, we need to be quiet here. Like and so for us, because the first floor, we want that. The first floor especially, we want that community feeling and that sense of energy and that sense of, this is for everyone. So to try to counteract sometimes how they expect they should be, what they need to be, and again balancing what other needs are, right? And how we tried to, so second and third floor are quiet for those people that need that. So how can we send that message that it is a welcoming environment, and a place that people want to be, but then they're also going, up against what they assume might be the norm.
Right. Yeah, there's all sorts of
Layers.
differences. And maybe they walk into another library and it is a little different where the whole space is a quiet space, or they have, I've seen like cell phone zone signs or things like that too on some libraries. Yeah, exactly right. All of the things that you mentioned, some things that weren't mentioned that you still might want to look for is students, when they give examples, if they don't include themselves in the examples, is like students in that class, even though they're in that class, students in this class really like doing A, B, and C instead of students in our class. So that language, if you hear that language right away, or them talking about events, like students in that club, campus ministry does that instead of I participate and do this. So those are some terminology things that you can listen for. Also, skipping class. There could be a variety of reasons why students skip class, but sometimes that is because simply they're afraid to show up because they feel like they don't belong for a variety of reasons. Then also thinking about class discussions, maybe sitting in body language, how the body language is. Now, sometimes I'm cold, and so I'll just naturally sit like this, and it has nothing to do with anything. I'm just cold. But sometimes it does have everything to do with what's going on. So reading that body language can be really important. You mentioned the desk arrangement. So if everyone is sitting in a certain desk arrangement and then they're off by themselves, just checking in, seeing, are you working on a separate project, or, what's happening there. So looking for those insights too. Now on the flip side, how is classroom sense of belonging fostered? What are some things that you can do? Or in our office spaces, what are some things that you can do to foster that sense of belonging?
I think, like you said, just making space, like having space available. I feel like one of the stereotypes of like a professor was just like books everywhere and like he can't get any in that space and stuff, as opposed to like a comfy couch or chair or something like that. I think in like the student affairs type setting, you often maybe see that more often than a professor's office. Food, music, like homemade feeling.
Yeah. Any other ideas?
Then the flip side for food, just to call out, for some people with allergies, then it really backfires. No longer is it even a sense of belonging, it's become a safety issue.
Right.
It's a safety issue.
Yeah.
So also being very cognizant as to what that looks like.
Yeah, it's always a balance. So me being in wellness, it's always a balance too with food of, those comfort, a lot of the comfort foods, try to reframe maybe what a comfort food is, other things, with recognizing, there's a time and place for everything. So that is a hard balance of what that is and what brings comfort to people may look different. So we'll go over some tips. Again, this is from different research articles that have been developed over time. The first one, as you mentioned, warmth and openness. So thinking about greeting people when they come into your office, making that eye contact, greeting them when students come into the classroom too, greeting them. When I was setting up, I was working with technology, but I did try to greet every person and look at every person as walking in. Acknowledging them as a person is really important, and being excited too about the content that you have to share. I mean, maybe it is your 10th time that you've presented this, or the 20th time if you teach twice a year, and maybe it kind of seems old to you, but it's new to them, and that's why they're there. They're there to learn from you. So finding a way to try to be excited about the content that you have to share, and try to remember at one point this was new to you too, and how excited you were to learn these new concepts and to the reason why you are in the position that you're in. So that can help engage students, and hopefully that engagement leads to motivation to learn the material. So those are things that are important. Also thinking about, now this depends on your level of comfort, but sharing something maybe personal about yourself. It doesn't have to be extremely personal. But for example, in my Dignitas class, I do a Pecha Kucha, which is like 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide, and it's called Me, Myself, and I, and it's just different experiences. Now that might be too much for some people, they might not like that, but I find that helps build some commonality. So I'll just share a little bit about how I came to be here at the college. It's not, again, it's pretty generic life things, but it also gives an opportunity to say, oh, you went to this undergrad and you went to this graduate school. It's like, I know people that lived in these states and you lived in these places, and so did I. It helps bridge that and makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. And many times that has happened, someone mentioned something that was in the Pechacucha afterwards. So it's been helpful in that way too. Then also sharing that if you're confused, it's okay. Everybody at one point, every beginner or every expert was a beginner at one point. There are things that you're going to be confused about. And for if you have helpers in your classroom, if this is a good message to share with them, like if you're confused, more often than not, someone else is probably confused too. And recognizing that, and I share this with my students too, I have multiple lectures that I'm doing in the day, sometimes on the same material. So it could be that I very well skipped something that was really important and I just missed it, and that's why you're confused. So making sure that you ask those questions. In the office space too, with student employees too, this may be their first work experience. They may just not know what we assume is everyone knows that that's not professional behavior. They might not know. So explaining some of that. Encouragement and of student participation is also really important. All of us have different class sizes, but really trying to get to know students by name is really important in welcoming them. I've seen research studies that if there's one person on campus that that student knows can call them by name, that highly increases the chance of retention. So try to be that one person if you can. Now, I know in a giant lecture, like that's not always possible to know all of those students, but if it's a smaller class, it can be manageable. So using different tricks, I take pictures of each student and I just have them hold a sign with their name and I just say, this is to help me get to know you a little bit better. I also, for the University of Mary class, I have them, one of their first assignments is submitting a picture of themselves with a little bit about why they're taking the class and a little bit about themselves. So that's how I get to know the online students. Then next, instructor organization. If you're prepared, I know that sometimes when you're taught about how to teach, they say going over the syllabus is a waste of time. Don't waste your time. I would disagree with that. Going over the syllabus clarifies expectations for everybody. So it's important, and the research supports that. So I would say going over the syllabus isn't a waste of time, but it helps encourage and welcome questions and set those expectations. And the message is about student success. I don't know if any of you have been in a class where they say, turn to your left, turn to your right. One of you won't be here, or two of you won't be here by the end of the semester. Has anybody experienced? I know I have been in a class where they said 1/4 of you are not going to make it. So that is, if you're a better student, you probably are like, well, it's not going to be me. But if you aren't a strong student, then that can be really disheartening. So avoiding phrases like that, you can say, you know, this is challenging content. It will be a struggle, and that's okay. That's why you're here. You're here to be challenged. You're here to grow. But everyone is capable of success with the proper framework of support. Then you can also, if you feel, again, this is with your level of comfort, but you can share stories of your own academic struggle. Maybe you were great at all subjects, and I applaud that. But for me, I know my first semester of college, my first calculus exam, I got a D on it. It was not awesome. And that was the first time that I had ever received anything close to that grade. Now, because of my background, I didn't jump to the conclusion that I don't belong at college, but it was something like I had to reach out to resources that I was not familiar with, like the tutoring center, and was able to do that. So me sharing that with my students, I think that didn't prevent me from being in the place that I am now. So that one exam does not forecast your entire next 80 years of your life. It is one moment in time. It meant that I had to work harder, and that's what I did. So that was our, and I didn't get there alone, is the other point that you can make. Like, we don't get to these places of success by ourselves. So hopefully that's enough information to help you answer. Oh, can you move that moderator, Bob? Or can I do it? Yeah. Okay, never mind. I got it. So these are two, with the few minutes that we have left, these are two students. I just want you to read about that scenario and then think about what, you can pick either one and then just at your table, talk about what you would do. Just choose which one you want to pick and then feel free to share. How about we come up with one idea each? Like for each table, and then we'll share.
So I can see for both of them, the clothes might be
So encouraging them to get involved in other activities. I think that's what you're saying for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I can think of students that, especially the first one, that had that experience. Students like leave, left, went home to be work with the family business and stuff like that. It's sad to lose them. To the family, I know. Yep.
And then they're trying to pull us into
Yeah, I felt like it was definitely stressful. Like, what do you want? I want this, but you don't know my life.
It might not always be possible, but I can think of possible things where there's like an internship or something available that they can still connect to their world in that internship or something for them as well. It's not always possible to say. I can think of opportunities like that.
Okay, I hate to cut off the discussion, but because of time, we're gonna have to end the discussion. But did these seem like realistic situations that maybe you've seen or encountered? Yeah. So what are some ideas just to share? Maybe each table share one idea that you talked about.
So the idea that there might be an opportunity for the first one for the student to get more experience academically and make money, which would be in the form of an internship. It's not always possible, but there may be opportunities like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you. Did your table? Which one did you, or did you do?
We haven't talked about.
Oh, okay, yeah, the first one. That's great too. Yeah.
Nick had a really good point about the first one that I I mean, college is a tough investment. It's economically feels like one step back for a while, but then eventually later on it'll get you steps forward, right? So he had a thought of maybe if she's really involved in these organizations, there's so many scholarships out there. So maybe just helping her look for some or providing some, or you say, these have deadlines in a month or 2 months, and
good idea.
Can I help you write them? Or try and come up with some ideas and we'll put it together, or I'll edit your essay or interview one.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point.
Provide some resources for her to feel independent, that she's doing something for herself, but then because she's doing that for herself, she's will be helping her family when she's less debt then. I think oftentimes first year students might have a lot of scholarships and you kind of forget that that's an option for second, third, and fourth year. Yeah, great points. And then the internships too. Working, hopefully, you know, for equity, there are more and more paid internships that can be tricky, but they do exist. It just depends. So wonderful ideas. Thank you. And we do have some.
Zoom. Yes, please share Zoom.
And he said, what can I do as an instructor? First, being aware of the student and her background would assist me in approaching her regarding her academic struggles, finding out what she would need to be more successful. So just understanding her story. What are her family's expectations? And we find solutions to helping her help them without her having to leave campus in class.
Great.
And are there online offerings that can be made more useful if she does have to return home? Still continue academic careers. Much of the assistance comes from having good communication with the student. Helping her create a sense of belonging in an academic setting. Where she knows she's welcome at home too. So maybe you could bring academics.
Right. Great ideas. Yeah, I love all of that. That's wonderful. Then there's a few programs on campus that have been built to help support the sense of belonging. We're student affairs, and there's a couple of faculty that have been involved in the First Fellows program. Dory Kemp talked about that, the I'm First campaign. There's the SNEES leadership program that can help develop leadership skills. I'll be facilitating the branch of the program called Leadership with Soul, and it will be 8 workshops. And it's based off of building positive relationships and emotions and a positive psychology skill set with leadership. Then we have a sense of belonging survey that's going to be coming out in the fall that will help get a baseline on what our student sense of belonging is on our campus and help inform our decisions. For first year classes, there's the opportunity to get involved with campus ministry and career services on the strong inventory. So that's a career services approach to strengths building, and that's through a grant that they can pay for that. So my email is on the screen, so if you have questions about any of those different topics, you can let me know. But overall, the takeaway is to focus on creating those inclusive environments and step away from a deficit mindset as these are all the negative things and challenges that are going to prevent you from ever being successful here, to an attribute mindset and a positive mindset on here's the growth mindset that you can have to succeed, and step away from that fixed mindset. Megan talked about grit. Part of grit is that growth mindset. You can't have grit without having a growth mindset. So keeping those things in mind in the language that you use and how you present opportunities to students. And if you think about, if you're lacking confidence, if you feel like you don't belong, what's the likelihood that you're going to reach out to say to someone, I need help? What do you think? Probably not. Probably not. So we need to be make the first move and say, this is a welcoming situation. I'm here to help you reach your full potential. Let's do this together. Not you're a burden to me. I'm closing my door to you. So helping extend your hand and making the first move can make a difference in a student's sense of belonging and satisfaction and achievement, which is why we're here, to help them attain their goals and to reach their full potential. So that's all that I have. I promised you I'd give you the resources. Here are the resources that helped build this presentation. And also too, if you're interested in the Boynton data about our students, please let me know and I can send you that data set too. So thank you so much for your time, and hopefully you enjoy your second session and the rest of the afternoon. Thanks.